marches and strikes across Europe, and the growing popularity and influence of young people such as the Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, the correlation between climate change, young people and youth work has become both crucial and very timely, and will be even more important in the future. And I'm pleased that today we can discuss what kind of a message the decision makers get from young people when young people are energetically and in large numbers demanding for a more effective policy. The presidency has prepared a background document which you will find in the annex to document 13398/19. This paper includes 3 questions with a view at structuring our debate today. The questions are the following. Number 1, how can we strengthen the capacity of youth work to respond to emerging challenges faced by young people in the context of climate change? Number 2, how can youth work support young people in their climate activism and building a sustainable future? And number 3, climate change is a cross-sectoral challenge. How can the youth sector act as a partner in cross-sectoral cooperation? But now I have a great pleasure to introduce to you and to welcome our young guest, Kaisa Newman. Kaisa is 19 years old, and she is the Vice President of the Finnish National Youth Council Alliance, and she has been working on youth climate and sustainable development issues. The presidency has invited her to this policy debate with agreement of the Council, and we are very happy to have her amongst us today. So without further ado, I'd like to open the floor for our debate. And if you allow me, and I do believe that you will allow me, I will give the floor to our young guest, to Kaisa. Kaisa, the floor is yours. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for having the chance of participating in this discussion today so that youth ministers can hear the voice of young people in this subject that touches us all, but especially young people. Ministers, Commissioner, we all know that we are fighting against climate change and that we have reached a crucial moment in time. Young people demand rapid action in order to restrain climate change. We encourage all citizens to be active in order to get these changes done, make sustainable developments, vote, sign petitions, participate in organizational activity, take part in demonstrations, and even striking. Restraining the climate crisis is the number one question for the future of our generation. If we want to keep this planet for us and the coming generations, we have to make radical changes in our production and consumption structures. We have to be more active with global action so that we can limit the rise of temperature to 1.5 degrees. Paris Agreement and Agenda 2030, if they are implemented constructively, we will reach our climate targets and sustainable development targets at the same time. The European Union, with a long history with polluting industry, and many of the member states who have a per capita carbon footprint, a very high one, they have to assume the leadership. We young people know how urgent these actions are, and we are ready to find solutions or look for solutions outside the present system. In Finland, like in many other countries, we have seen how young people have taken the leadership in fighting climate change. In March, over 500 young people in Finland took part in a climate meeting where we demanded a better climate policy. Over 60,000 Finns signed a petition so that the Finnish, as president of the European Union, would take climate policy as its number one priority. Thousands of young people and children have marched in the footsteps of Greta Thunberg in order to have this planet of ours in the future as well. We support very ambitious climate policy. We have to give up using coal as quickly as possible. Carbon sinks and storages must be increased, and we have to study this from the perspective of climate change, not on the perspective of short-term economic gain. We have to have good recycling and recycling economic models, and we have to emphasize efficient use of material and cutting the use of. And we have to take climate policy in all our decision making, and we have to evaluate all decisions from the perspective of climate. And in our meeting we adopted a resolution adopted by over 20 Finnish youth organizations. This shows how young people and youth work are in the forefront and hold a key position in the fight against climate change. But what exactly should be the role of youth work? Youth work helps or supports young people to become adults so that they would be ready to assume an independent life, make responsible choices, and feel that they are part in the society. Youth work must help young people to be active citizens. As regards climate change, the role of youth work is very important. Youth work must help young people to assume a climate-friendly way of life and to help in mitigating the changes. We have to have information about what is the relationship of young people with climate crisis and help them individually. Young activists are fighting with lack of time and pressure caused by media. There is clear climate anxiety. Young people need information how they can restrain the climate crisis, and we have to get involved all those young people who are suspicious or indifferent. Climate education should be included in school curricula in all levels and in all subjects. We have started with creating a thinking of sharing economy and cutting consumption, and the public sector must support the environmental and climate education done by the third sector. Funding of youth work has been too low for years, but high-quality educational work needs money. Erasmus Plus should be increased considerably, and the money should be directed to sustainable work. Climate change has a clear impact on young people, and young people want to change the world. You have to guarantee that young people have an equal chance to be heard and to participate in decision-making. Youth work ideas or projects concentrating on climate in schools and in municipal decision making must be supported. We have to make sure that new people understand that the EU is the best way to affect global climate policy. Young people want to take action to create a sustainable world. Now we need radical decisions. The climate crisis cannot wait for a better economic situation or new innovation. We need quickly effective solutions and fundamental changes in our way of life. Global low pollution, low emission change will be good for everybody, to the planet and to people. The young people have assumed leadership in fight against climate, and next step is youth work. We have to be able to succeed this because our planet is at stake. Thank you.
Kiitos, Sara. Nyt.
Thank you, Sara. Now we continue our discussion. First I will give the floor to the Commission and then the Member States. And you can of course react to the comment from our guest that you just heard. Tibor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hanna. Dear Ministers, I would like to thank the Finnish Presidency for putting this topic on the agenda and for the excellent work preparing this important policy debate. I'm convinced that the EU support has a vital role to play in making sure that youth work can help us address big challenges such as climate change. Young people have been at the forefront of raising the alarm about climate change and the state of our planet. Our latest survey, a special Eurobarometer on youth that we published in spring of this year, confirms this. 2 out of 3 of the young people asked told us that they consider climate change a top priority for the European Union. Moreover, young people are making their views clear with the EU-supported projects they choose to participate in. Around 10% of projects funded by Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps focus on issues directly related to the environment and climate change. This proves young people and youth organizations are ready to act. They deserve more opportunities to do so. This means giving more young people a chance to take part in EU-funded projects and strengthening the focus on climate and the environment. And it means more support for young people in their activism. This can come through youth work, as long as it has the right activities and methodologies in place. Through our youth dialogue, young people have told us what they want us to work towards. First, making sure that all young people are aware of environmental issues. Second, a society where young people can take greater responsibility for their lifestyles. This means ensuring that they have access to sustainable options, such as effective public transport, ethically produced products, and renewable energy. Third, a greater involvement of young people as volunteers or activists in environmental protection programs and initiatives. I see an important role for well-trained youth workers in all of this. They are key in encouraging and moderating discussions on climate change with young people and in translating young people's points of view to policymakers. I would also like to stress that many valuable projects funded by the Youth Stand of Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps already provide youth work opportunities and contribute to an increased environmental awareness. For instance, volunteers supported by the European Solidarity Corps in Romania are helping to make pupils in schools more aware of environmental issues. This is also an excellent example of an approach that brings different sectors together, in this case youth and formal education. The future programs will be even more focused on sustainability and environmental awareness. The green dimension will be integrated in the design of actions and thus in the projects supported. Moreover, with the increased budget we have proposed, we will be able to open up the programs to a larger number of young people from all parts of society and also to a wider range of youth organizations. The latter will allow us to strengthen their capacity to develop new activities and working methods and provide adequate training to youth workers. In this way, EU support can trigger a virtuous circle, empowering youth workers who will be able to reach out to more and more young people who will in turn gain a better understanding of environmental issues and be in a position to act accordingly, feeling that their voices are heard and that their actions have an impact. I'm now looking forward to hearing your views. Thank you very much.
Kiitos.
Thank you. Thank you, Tibor. Now is the turn of the member states. The first one is Portugal, and after Portugal, Slovenia. João.
Muito bom dia. Thank you. Good morning, Hanna Kosonen. Thank you very much. Commissioner Tibor Navracsics, good morning. Colleagues, I'd just like to take this opportunity of offering my compliments to Sarah for her intervention. And I'd like to thank her for being so militant and positive. Now, at the moment, the world is looking to young people as a compass to steer us to take the right action, climate action. There's a great deal of goodwill around and involvement. Young people have a lot of energy to transform society. So it's essential that youth workers should play an important role. Their work is very relevant, given its wide-ranging nature. So what's terribly important is to empower youth workers via training and education, but they should be using digital tools to share experiences. We need to strengthen the response to challenges and get the right responses. It's important to increase public awareness of problems related to climate change. We should harness the efforts of young people to think critically and be creative. That's what Sarah is obviously being. We know we have common objectives and we need to work together to tackle climate change. Now, in Portugal, we have done some work. We believe that youth policies are cross-cutting. Therefore, we have the first national plan for youth, which is including a key theme, which is the environment and sustainable development. And this brings together various layers of governance. It's important to promote sustainable mobility. Look at the student pass, for example. Now, for environment action, we have a program, a young person's volunteer program, to help nature and forests and ecosystems. Populations are being made more aware of issues like, for example, the risk of forest fire. This program mobilizes annually a lot of young people. I'm convinced that the sector of youth and youth workers can serve as a bridge and a link between various different sectors and breathe life into various initiatives, creating networks at grassroots level to involve many players and do good work for climate or against climate change. I think the future generation is the best guarantee for the future and a world where we have sustainable developments. It's important to make young people able to be active and effective in creating policies for a real future. Thank you.
Kiitos, Joa.
Thank you, Joao. Then we have Slovenia, and after Slovenia, Germany. Martina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. And a special thank you to Sarah, who is here today to give an important contribution to our debate today. It is vital to always hear the voice of our youth and to take it into account when designing our work. When it comes to the role of our youth in warning about climate change, it is important to ensure high-quality youth work. And high-quality youth work can also can only go hand in hand with appropriate platforms and with adequate participation of our youth in all stages, from the conception to implementation and evaluation of youth work. Only if we take all this into account can we adequately reflect and take into account the needs and the challenges faced by our youth. It has been key to pursue this principle of always including our youth in any debates on youth and on youth work. And we must not be patronizing in doing this, in designing youth policies. Our youth can be very determined, which we have also recently seen in their struggle to preserve our planet. It is a matter that is close to their hearts, and we must give them the opportunity to properly organize themselves to properly participate in any activities in this field. Here we believe the European Union can do its part. Erasmus Plus is an important aspect, an important element in this context. We have already heard of various initiatives, including the Solidarity Corps and similar. It is important to focus on all the priorities pinpointed by our youth, not only individual initiatives. We must also be able to include all youth in our activities, including marginalized youth. And, of course, modern technologies can be of great help to us in our endeavors, because it is here to stay, and it is here to allow our youth to develop and express their competences. We have recently organized a national consultation of the whole youth sector in Ljubljana this week. And we have discussed this very topic, namely the topic of quality youth work. We believe this issue needs further work and further reflection, including here at the level of the EU. Here we would like to specifically address the question of civic spaces, how to include them, how to organize them, how to provide them for our youth so as to achieve the best possible effects. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina. Then we have Germany, and after Germany, Belgium.
Ja, vielen herzlichen Dank.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Commissioner. Good morning, colleagues. Nice to see you. I'd like to thank Sarah. Thanks for coming. Thanks for talking to us. I think it's clear for all of us that society and political circles, we all need young people and their enthusiasm and their dynamism. It's a good thing that so many young people are demonstrating on the streets and showing how important certain issues are to them. They're really tackling important subjects for them. The federal government is feeling motivated now. We have a youth strategy. It's been rubber stamped by all ministries, because everybody feels in the government that it's not just about the ministry with responsibility for youth to take action affecting young people. It's up to all ministries. We've coordinated our common youth strategy now. In this year, the finishing touches will be put on by the federal government in cabinet. Now, it's nice to have this debate here. I think it's important to have the right youth workers doing the right work with young people. It's important for youth workers to give young people enough freedom to develop their skills in various different sectors. And it's important to give them the opportunity to tackle issues related to climate change and the environment. And it's important to give young people the feeling that they're being encouraged to take the right conclusions. Now, youth workers have a key role to play. As I said, it's important to support young people's enthusiasm. To get it right, the member states need to have the right infrastructure, facilities, rooms to meet, highly skilled youth workers, for example. Other things are important as well. The European level of governance can do its bit as well. We can look at projects where young people might sign up to work on the on tackling climate change. We could maybe think about possibilities in the Solidarity Corps for young people even younger than 18 years of age. At our European level and at our federal government level, we've had good experience with cooperating with other ministries and portfolios. It's important to stress that it's not up to ministers with responsibility for youth alone to be involved with young people. All of our political colleagues should be involved as well, because it's only if we pool together that we can get it right for young people. So many thanks to you for putting this on the agenda. Commissioner, I'd like to thank you for all your work during the last 5 years of your mandate. Thank you very much indeed.
Kiitos, Julia.
Thank you, Julia. Then we have Belgium, and after that Sweden.
Dank u wel, mevrouw de
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, colleagues, first and foremost, I'd like to thank the Finnish presidency and also congratulate you on the great deal of work that you've done both here in Brussels and in Helsinki. And in particular, I'd like to thank Commissioner Navracsics. This is your last meeting. This is my first council meeting as the Minister for Youth, and I'd like to thank you for all of the hard work that you've done in this very important policy area over the last years. This is going to provide us with a very solid basis for upcoming youth policy for the next few years. The climate change is a matter for everyone. We can all make a contribution to this. I think in our daily activities, we all should be asking ourselves the question, what can we do that will mean something for our planet? There is no planet B. And this is something which a lot of young people have already fully understood. They've placed this issue on the agenda. They've indicated themselves that climate change and sustainable development are important issues for them. The intrinsic value of youth work is located here. So in supporting young people, making sure that they grow into adulthood. And I think that youth work can make the difference when it comes to young people's lives. In discussion with young people about climate change, youth work certainly has not missed the boat. On the contrary, young people and youth work generally has always paid a lot of attention to the environment in which they live and operate. In Belgium, this is the responsibility of the 3 different communities, and the 3 communities work well together in this field. A lot of good initiatives show the commitment of young people and youth work when it comes to protecting our planet. Similarly to my German colleague, I think it's very important for us to exchange best practices amongst ourselves within the European Union. There are various very important activities which I think are of relevance here. Organising environmental camps, programmes under Erasmus+, the European Solidarity Corps, which provide a framework for political training on climate activism and more. And for the new generation of Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps programmes, I'd really like to invite the European Commission to come up with some environmental quality criteria so that young people are encouraged to act in a sustainable way, in particular when it comes to their travel, for example, by undertaking travel by train across Europe. It would be good if we could get the necessary financial support for that. Colleagues, this week there was a very important anniversary. It was the 30th anniversary of the New York Agreement on Children's Rights. And in that agreement, there are a lot of very important principles which are also relevant for this debate. 2 in particular. The first one, participation of young people. Young people and children have to be able to speak out on these policies. It's really excellent that Sarah Newman was with us this morning and has testified on behalf of young people about what is important to them. I think this is critical for youth work. So thank you for that. And then the second point, information for young people. This can also be an instrument in supporting young people in combating climate change. We can translate complex issues into a more youth-friendly language, provide young people with information about possibilities when it comes to voluntary work, such as environmental voluntary work or voluntary work in the field of development cooperation. Youth work is a very important player when it comes to advocacy, awareness raising and supporting young people in all of the different subjects that are of importance to them, including climate change and active citizenship. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Then we have Sweden, and after Sweden, Croatia. Helene.
Kära ordförande, kommission.
Sarah, Chairman, Mr. Commissioner, and dear Sarah, let me start by saying that I think that today's theme for the debate is well chosen and very topical. The inclusion of young people is decisive in order to reach the goals in the Agenda 2030 and the Paris Agreement. Over the entire world, we see young people who demand more forceful measures against climate changes. We have to be better at listening to young people and to understand their realities, challenges and expectations on the future. We also need to be better at communicating which policy implemented for youth and for climate. Young women and men have the right to be informed on the effects of the climate changes. We must give all young people tools in order to handle these. This demands continuous dialogue, research, cross-sectoral development and special efforts in order to reach all young people. It requires cooperation with international organizations and experts. In this respect, youth work can play an important role. Youth work is an important tool to strengthen the citizenship while offering young people, irrespectively of their background, necessary knowledge and competence for an active engagement in society. Youth work can strengthen all the young women and men's, girls and boys' capacities to handle challenges and make use of opportunities. It's also important that we have a youth perspective in decisions concerning climate policy. Here, the youth organizations play an important role. They gather young people who are committed. The youth organizations should therefore participate in the implementation and follow-up of the youth policy. We are very proud over the demonstrations that Greta Thunberg and the movement Fridays for Future have inspired to, and which has gathered millions of young people around the world. But an important thing is that we mustn't forget is that it's not up to their generation to solve the climate crisis. It's up to us, all generations, here and now. The messages from the young generation must influence how we work and what we focus on. We have to show that we're listening to them. At the same time, it's not enough to listen. The most important thing we can do is to deliver results that make a difference in the everyday life of young people. We have to be clear on the fact that reforms can be complex and can take time, and therefore it's very important with feedback. The young people who are committed in an issue have to be able to follow how it's developed and participate in the implementation. When young people see concrete improvements in their life situation, their confidence for the democracy increases, the confidence for political systems and our European Union increase. Finally, I'd like to thank Commissioner Tibor for a good cooperation. Thank you very much.
Tack så mycket, Helene. Seuraavaksi.
Thank you, Helena. We have Croatia, and after Croatia, Poland. Vesna.
Hvala lijepo. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mrs. Kosonen, Commissioner, Mr. Navracic, colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank the Finnish presidency for organizing this policy debate. And I'd also like to thank Ms. Newman, the representative of the youth who came here and supported our debate and also made a valuable contribution to our discussion on this topic. When it comes to climate change, we are all aware of the fact that climate change is happening very, very fast, and the impact is felt around the world in all spheres of life. Therefore, it is up to all of us, not only the young, to help address the impact and preserve the environment for future generations. Speaking about youth workers, it is their role, first of all, to inform and motivate people who are yet not fully aware of the climate crisis, but also it is up to us to support the young who actively advocate sustainable and responsible behavior in relation to climate change. It is also necessary to permanently empower youth workers, empower young people and promote youth work in general. This is, of course, in line line with the European Youth Strategy for the period from 2019 to 2027. We should bear in mind that new climate change challenges will require new approaches and method of youth work. This is where our cross-sectoral approach will be very important and our approach to climate changes. Speaking about the future of youth work in relation to climate challenges, we believe that there is simultaneously a need to apply top-down and bottom-up approach. We need to listen to the young people and hear what they have to say and allow them to participate in decisions that are being taken and that will have an impact on their lives. Harmonized standards in legislative and strategic frameworks are a starting point for setting priorities in public policies and youth policies in the field of climate change. However, despite the advanced legislative and strategic framework of the European Union in the field of environmental protection and sustainable development, we need to devise innovative awareness-raising measures as to climate challenges. The young people are those who have a key role in knowledge transfer by means of new creative and youth-friendly methods. We see youth work and youth workers as those who promote sustainable development concepts. Our vision of youth work in the context of sustainable future is a vision of sovereign young people who participate in the creation of a better sustainable future, and that is why we strongly promote strategic work in this field. Thank you.
Kiitos Vesna.
Thank you, Vesna. Then we have Poland, and after that the Czech Republic. Ivana.
Pani Przewodnicząca.
Madam Chairman, Commissioner, Ministers, dear Sarah, the topic that we're discussing today, i.e. climate change, is a challenge which we must face as decision makers with due concern for future generations in mind. Youths are the ones who will inherit this planet together with its resources, but also with this cumbersome burden of pollution. It is no wonder then that youths are the ones who are vitally interested in discussing global climate change. Youth work in climate and environmental policy, therefore, is an expression of the requisite intergenerational solidarity. Hence, all manner of pro-environmental measures should be continuously taken into consideration in strategies geared at youth work. The strategy adopted by the Polish government this year, entitled National Environmental Policy into 2030, points to climate issues as key from the perspective of sustainable development. Importantly, this strategy stresses an important role of pro-environmental education, including with its focus on youths. Youths were also a key target group for information and promotional activities in a project entitled Climate Change Adaptation Plans for Cities over 100,000. This project was implemented by the Ministry of the Environment between 2017 and 2019. It involved 44 cities. All this points to the fact that in the face of climate change challenges, we must have a specific technical discussion on intersectoral arrangements. This approach should be based on dialogue between the economy, technology, and society. Youth are an important stakeholder whose voice should be definitely audible in this dialogue. The key goal for youth work is to support personal and societal development of young people, i.e. creating a space where they will build their outlook on life based on values, engagement, and concern for others. In the climate-related area, this is specifically about environmental education, which is geared at promoting good practices which are beneficial for attaining sustainable development goals. Here, it is extremely important to encourage young people to develop an awareness of there being a connection between vulnerability to climate change effects and access to sustainable development solutions. Conditions of cities and regions vary depending on where they are in terms of development, historical and economic development. Hence, we must not downplay a just transition to environmentally sustainable economies and societies. Transformation covers any generation and the ensuing changes in industry mix and employment patterns. Hence the concept of a just transition in the spirit of solidarity. Labour market transformations and manufacturing and consumption pattern changes must be based on an inclusive approach so that no one is left behind. This is extremely important for those that are particularly vulnerable to climate change effects, especially youths. Ladies and gentlemen, environmental, societal and economic challenges should be approached, therefore, in a cohesive, integrated manner. The principle of solidarity means that actions should be taken to ensure equitable development. Equitable meaning one that takes due consideration of local situations, which is always mindful of human welfare. It is important for the concept of solidarity, expressed in many ways, to underpin all actions and efforts made when working with youth in the context of climate challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivona. Then we have the Czech Republic, after that Bulgaria. Václav.
Dear Madam Chair, dear Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the Finnish presidency for choosing this very current topic for our policy debate at the Council, and especially Sara for her representation of the voice of youth. We consider it to be highly relevant for the youth across Europe. I would like to remind you that it was the youth that helped to overthrow the communistic regime 30 years ago, and now it is again youth that is taken up the serious worries about the climate change. The capacity of youth policies and work to respond to emerging challenges faced by our society, and especially by the future generations, should be strengthened by coordinated government actions through innovative cross-sectoral policy and targeted grant schemes. In the Czech Republic, we have taken many steps to make young people's concerns about climate change heard. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports launches annual calls for organisation of a large variety of competitions for pupils and students at local, regional and national levels. Some of them focus on joint environmental initiatives aimed at building the capacity of young people for making low-carbon lifestyles, for example, annual environmental Olympiad for secondary school teams, and the environmental competition called Golden Leaf for elementary school teams, which enable young people to acquire key competencies for making informed choices how to green up their lifestyle and their communities. In addition, annually increased grants for youth NGOs for 2019 allocated €7 million are distributed for conducting a spectrum of various projects at local level. Diverse supported initiatives include awareness raising, educational programs, planting trees, promoting the use of renewable energy and community capacity building. In 2018, the Ministry supported 117 NGOs projects in implementing environmental literacy, in implementing sustainable development, and in organising environmental summer camps. Concerning the topic of climate change, I would like to stress that the young people's ability, in contrast to other generations, to swiftly acquire sustainable behaviour has a critical impact on the necessity for uplifting and intensifying intergenerational collaboration and dialogue through youth work. This is an asset to our common endeavour for responding young people's concerns about climate change in the near future. Thank you for your attention, thank you the Finnish presidency, and thank you Tibor for his work done for his council. Thank you.
Kiitos Václav. Seuraavana.
Thank you, Václav. Bulgaria, and after Bulgaria, Greece. Krasin.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner, colleagues. Climate change, the environment, and all the challenges related to these are the hallmark of today's world, but they will also impact the future, with an impact on the future of today's young. And the young generations of today, will have to be committed, will have to be brave, will have to think outside the box so that they can find the right solutions. The development, the implementation and the further development of national, regional and local youth policies, including youth work mechanisms, are an important prerequisite to encourage the commitment of young to society. Youth policies should provide for social well-being and opportunities such that the young can apply their professional and social skills to the benefit of their society, their country and Europe as a whole. Sustainable youth work mechanisms, the investment in the young generations as a substantial social capital, the mobilization of their potential are at the heart of Bulgaria's national youth strategy post-2020. It's a 10-year horizon. It is being developed with the active participation of all young people from all over the country. Their participation, of course, encourages them to buy in, to acquire ownership of the strategy and become drivers of positive change. What will be key in the coming period, of course, will also be the EU programs and funds such as Erasmus+, the European Solidarity Corps, Horizon 2020, Creative Europe. This will create better opportunities to achieve spillover effects across Europe. It is also important that the future updated plan of the European Union for action in digital education and training to include youth work. Climate change is a horizontal matter. It requires coordinated work at every level, not only at the government level, but at every individual's level. And to increase awareness and ensure a change of behavior, formal and informal and non-formal education of the young generations would be key. They will have to develop, and we will try to help them develop, a sustainable environmental culture combined with knowledge that would help them contribute to addressing climate change and other issues of the environment. There are the 11 European youth objectives, and within this framework we intend to help the young to become more environmentally active. The energy, the potential of the younger generations is the resource that we must tap to address the challenges not only relating to climate, but to society at large. Thank you.
Kreikka valmistautuu Liettua.
Next one is Greece, and after Greece we have Lithuania. Georgios.
Thank you.
Hvala vam lijepa.
Και την τιμή που συμμετέχω για πρώτη φορά στο εν λόγω Συμβούλιο.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Commissioner, colleagues. I'd like to say firstly how honoured and pleased I am to be in this Council for the first time, and thank the Finnish Presidency for organising this very interesting discussion. This is a particularly important issue for young people. They're the ones, after all, who are going to be responsible for policy in 2030. And they are also going to be the people who evaluate what we do and we'll assess the positive and negative outcome of the action we take now. Now, this is a political climate which is characterised by strong interest but a low level of action in climate change. And youth workers are going to have to be educated and trained so that they can take the right sort of initiatives with regard to climate change. Climate education is vitally important as part of the global effort which is being made to deal with this issue, because this is something that can help young people to understand the effects of climate change and to have a critical approach and make informed choices and take the right sort of initiatives. Now, the European Commission Youth Programme needs to give priority to supporting action so that young people can be properly equipped and have the proper tools available to them, the latest technology and science and skills and knowledge, so that they can adapt to changing conditions brought on by climate change. Now, in order for this to happen, we need to boost local action and strengthen values amongst young people. So we're talking here about solidarity with the next generation, the sense of responsibility and critical analysis. Now, Greece is an island country, and this is a country which may risk losing some of its land mass and also some of the cultural heritage in our country. And that's why it's very important that we bring together all these issues, climate change and young people. Now, in order to achieve this, we are the new government working towards these goals in our country. Now, the new actions which are now being taken as part of climate activism are inspired, spontaneous actions. They're full of new ideas, proposals and initiatives. And if we work with young people, we might be able to introduce new types of education so that we can make sure that their proposals are properly organised and become attractive to more young people. And we can help them to make the right decisions. I think if we are able to develop local strategy on the basis of what's already been outlined at a higher level, then we should be able to work with young people as well to try and find answers to some of these questions. Now, as far as the Greek government is concerned, we are currently reworking some of our priorities. We're working across sectors, across ministries. We're looking at climate change, and we have given a very high priority to this issue, and we are trying very closely to link this with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgios. We have next one is Lithuania, and after Lithuania, Ireland. Edvidas.
Madam Chair, Mr. Commissioner, dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank Sarah. In Lithuania, according to our law, I am not a young person, but I think I'm still a young person according to the Greek law. Therefore, when we talk about young people, we should include as many young people among us as possible. We should have young experts who can share their views on the future. So I'll be a young person in Greek terms, and I will share the youth perspective. Everybody agrees that climate change is a serious global threat. Everyone in the European Union agrees on that. In order to bring change, we need to act together. We cannot act separately. We cannot simply think about national or local decisions. We need to aim at common understanding. Everything we do has an influence on our planet Earth and our commonwealth. Therefore, the question is what we want to leave for future generations. Some of you already have children, grandchildren. So the question is whether we want to have a really great party and we leave all the mess to the future generations, or do we actually want to ensure a smooth transition into the future? Therefore, I believe that we should trust the youth, we should enable them. We already see that they take actions, that they are able, and in order to continue the actions, they need financing, and we need to ensure these finances. And now the structural dialogue is a wonderful tool that allows us to hear young people. We should also think about new digital tools. They are also helpful in order to include the young people into the decision-making process. Now, I do agree with the Commissioner, with Belgium and Germany, and everything that has been said about the youth workers. They are the forerunners, and they have the closest connections with the youth. We also have great examples in Lithuania. For example, the Student Union of Lithuania, who implements different projects, as well as the umbrella organization of youth. This is a great example on how this message can be spread. So we have a lot of projects that include the youth, and the youth can help to form the strategy. This week we also have a number of events related to the Climate Week, and its topic is, do we change ourselves or do we change the environment? Therefore, I believe that we should share good practice, first of all. And I would like to especially thank the Commissioner for his work on Erasmus Plus and everything he did to increase the budget for youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Edvidas. We have Ireland, and after Ireland, the Netherlands. Katarina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I begin by again congratulating and thanking the Vice Chair of the Finnish National Youth Council, Sarah, for your very inspiring remarks, for your call to all of us that we must make radical changes, and also to complement the passion that all of the other ministers have already spoken. And I think that we're trying to step up to that call and challenge that you offer to us. Ireland agrees with you and my colleagues here that this is the issue of our time. It's very good to hear the Commissioner outline from a survey of young people that 2 out of 3 consider this to be a top priority. And just as I mentioned, the Commissioner again to acknowledge and to thank him for his leadership over the past number of years with us here, and particularly on this issue as well. We believe in Ireland that our engagement on this issue is to actually to follow the leadership of the young people, as well as to strengthen their capacity in all the ways in which other ministers have commented. Most recently in September, I had the opportunity to participate in the UN General Assembly Week, where Ireland worked with Marshall Islands, a small island developing state, who of course feel the impact of the climate change and emergency in a very significant way, to organize the youth mobilization and public engagement that happened within the General Assembly as member states actually became key listeners to our young people to exchange. There was an intergenerational dialogue. The Human Rights High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet, our former President Mary Robinson, engaging with the young people, listening to what they had to say to us. At that session, I promised as the young persons minister to the young people who came with us that we would go home and we would find additional ways in which to enable the leadership and the action of our young people in Ireland. And so with our Minister for Climate Action, we agreed that we would establish a National Youth Council on Climate Action, and also to make an additional contribution to young people of approximately 600,000 euros to use to develop the ways in which they can help us as adults and leaders to understand how to respond appropriately to climate action change. And I was especially interested to listen to some of the examples given by our Czech colleague here, and I will take note of those. Tomorrow, as I return to Ireland, I'm going to go to our Houses of Parliament, where actually our young people are gathering to have their kick-off session in our Houses of Parliament, looking at climate action and issues that they want to look at over the next couple of years. We also recognize that the European Solidarity Corps is a crucial program to empower young people to develop their capacities and skills to tackle climate change. We know that there are tough challenges ahead, and we are grateful to the leadership of our young people in Ireland and obviously across Europe and the world to help us to respond to and find ways, again, as Sarah asked for us, to make radical changes.
Kiitos Katariina. Seuraavana.
Thank you, Catherine. And then we have the Netherlands, and after that France. Ronald.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for bringing this topic to this agenda today. Climate change is one of the most urgent current issues and one of the highest importance for future generations. And it is very important that young people are engaged with society, and we notice they are, especially by making their voices heard in the call for climate measures. In the Netherlands, it's up to the local authorities to determine how responsibilities of youth work are organized. And one of the focus areas of youth work is active citizenship, and of course this relates also to climate. And for example, in one of our cities, Arnhem, youth work stimulates young people to play an active role in the energy transition in the city. And there are several examples of actions and activities that young people initiated regarding climate change. For example, a young climate movement